Thank you for joining our webinar, Achieving Full AP Automation in the Digital Age, presented by Capita in conjunction with CloudTrade. Firstly, I want to introduce myself. My name is Andy Woods. I'm the Local Government Account Director, and I'm joined today by Jeremy Phillips, the EMEA Alliance Director at CloudTrade. What we plan to cover today is an introduction to the Capita and CloudTrade partnership, how the service operates, how it works with the Integra Document Manager, and the benefits of a holistic approach to managing AP invoices. The key drivers we see for e-invoicing comes from government strategy, digital strategy of local government customers, to provide more in the way of automation and efficiency, data transparency, ultimately trying to deliver cash and resources back to frontline services. Okay, so Capita enjoys a strategic partnership with CloudTrade, principally to derive benefit for our local government, central government, and corporate customers, and indeed NHS customers. We have combined experience working with the client base for more than 30 years, so we have shared knowledge to deliver insights and best practice. We can offer a greater choice of solution, and indeed a best-in-class solution to meet legislative and operational efficiency requirements for both finance and procurement. In terms of the digital agenda, we sort of break this down into three areas: e-invoicing and procurement, transparency and compliance, and driving efficiency. So we're focused in those three areas. And e-invoicing and procurement, we're looking at the requirement for organizations to embrace digital financial management. There's potentially £2 billion in annual savings to be made across the public sector, with a requirement for public sector organizations to be able to receive e-invoices by April of this year, all of which is supported by Integra, Centros, P2P, and CloudTrade, to give greater visibility, improved efficiency, increased productivity, and assisting with risk management. Transparency and compliance, how can it be both compliant and transparent? Our invoicing solution provides a full audit trail. Digital records are secure, and CloudTrade interaction is non-invasive. We provide real-time reporting, automated workflows, and secure and effective data management. Driving efficiencies, how can I drive efficiency? Strip away manual processes. We have a predictable costings model for the service to help budget planning and cost management, drill down reporting, alignment and visibility with procurement so that there is one version of the truth. So digital is here today. We're really looking at how we work together to harness digital solutions and leverage technology as part of our respective digital transformation program. And with that, I'll hand over to Jeremy. Thank you.
Thanks, Andy. So just to confirm, what I'm going to talk through over the next 10-15 minutes or so is how we can provide 100% accuracy and true automation through the CloudTrade service. So we'll look at how the service works, some examples of clients that are using the service, and most importantly, how that actually sits and works with Integra Document Manager to provide full AP automation as well. So as a brief introduction, CloudTrade were started in 2009, and with a sort of a single approach that what we wanted to do was to fundamentally change the way that we acquired data. So our patent-protected software not only reads, but also comprehends and validates the data within application-generated human-readable documents. And so what do we mean by that? An application-generated document is an item that has been produced directly from an application, so an electronic PDF, a Word file, Excel document, XML file, CSV, etc. The key thing here is that because we're not just scanning the document, we can actually interpret and comprehend the data within that. So we can provide data validation rules around it to make sure that it meets the requirements that your business has outlined. So as a quick overview of what the service looks like, if we have a supplier or a sender of a document and yourselves as the buyer, the supplier will be typically sending in documents at the moment that may be printed off and then scanned in. It might be printed off and typed in manually into a finance system, for example. But where possible, what we'd look for is the data-rich file. So this is an application file such as a PDF or CSV file that can be emailed over to a secure FTP folder or emailed directly into a domain of your choosing. And we can add to that as we need to, but most importantly, we can pass that through into the cloud service without any technical barrier for the sending party. So once we have built up what the business rules need to look like, so for example, if you have a no PO, no pay policy, or if you're looking to enrich the data, or if you're looking to validate the content of it against data that you maybe hold within Integra, then we can build all of that into the CloudTrade service. None of this requires a process change from the supplier or from yourselves, and it certainly doesn't require a financial cost to the supplier either. So we're looking to reduce as many barriers as possible to pass this information through to you. Once we have validated all of the data, then we will pass over an XML file that will be uploaded through PLI into the purchase ledger or into purchase order module, and then for either approval or for matching as ever you see fit. One of the key considerations here is that we can capture data not only just at header level but also at line level, but we can also capture documents, what we call the multi-multi. So this would be documents that are maybe multiple invoices sent on one email, or even, or even multiple invoices sent within one invoice. So we can strip those invoices out, capture all the data, and then pass it over as individual files if that's what's needed. In addition to the XML file, we can send over a rendered copy of that file as well, the image, that can be opened up within Integra Document Manager or within the rest of the Integra application. So as we've said, the service accepts any application-generated document. And because we are capturing the metadata or the data layer of this document, there's a 100% accuracy guarantee that goes with this. So even at line level on complex documents such as invoices, statements, purchase orders, and so on, we'll capture the information and then push that directly through into the application. There's no need for extra validation steps and there's no need for manual intervention. Importantly, if the data moves around, we can also capture this. So because we're not restricted to templates, and where you look at a document such as a multi-line invoice, where documents will change format, data positions will move around, the context of the data can change, we can still capture all of the information as if it was a human reading the document itself. There's no capture exceptions. We can't misread, for example, a 1 for an L. So there's no issues around that. However, what we do find is that sometimes senders will support an invoice or a document with additional information such as statements, timesheets, course orders, etc. Where that's required, what we'll do is we can push that through into an intervention stream for your team to go through and decide if you want to accept the additional document or to push it back to the sender. And again, that's all managed before it hits the Integra modules. Capturing of the line level detail is critical for some organizations, and although you might not be necessarily looking to capture line level data to do maybe purchase order matching, it provides an extra level of granular detail that you may be able to use in analysis purposes. There's minimal setup for both yourself and the suppliers. There's no software to install, there's no change to the sender's billing application, there's no change to infrastructure. All of the barriers that have been sort of associated with traditional data capture projects have been removed. And because we are acting as the front door and capturing data with all of your business rules in mind, it does safeguard the data quality. So you know that the data that's coming through has passed every piece of validation required and it can push straight through into the module. There's a portal that provides measurable service performance. That includes inquiries, it includes reports such as reconciliation reports. So you can go through and check to see if what's within Integra matches back to that particular supplier, for example. And it's not just invoices. We'll have a look at a couple of use cases, but this is very much about capturing data from any application-generated document, be it an order, a statement, complaint letters, receipts, legal documents, etc. We've got use cases for all of the above. So hopefully that gives you a little bit of an overview as to how the service works and some of the options around it. I think just to focus in on what the market currently looks like and why this service is becoming more and more relevant. There was a recent study by Valentis that showed that within Europe, so between business to business and business to government, there were over 530 billion invoices in the year, but only 55 billion of those, so circa 10%, could be classed as truly digital. So this is where a document is produced digitally and passes through the entire life cycle without any either printing or human touch of that document. Most documents, as I say, will be either printed and then scanned in, or provided as an image file that requires manual intervention. Europe is reasonably well ahead of the game. There are other countries that have mandated the use of e-invoicing for a number of years. That's not here yet, but it's obviously a recommendation, and it's certainly a way to reduce costs. One of the other reasons why this is so successful is that if we actually look at the type of document that a sender has been sending, is that 10 years ago it would have been typically about 30% of the documents were electronically produced. And today, as standard, it's usually over 90%. So if you think about the documents that you're outputting from Integra and the other systems that are in use within the rest of the ecosystem, a lot of these documents are digitally born, and as such we can capture them as well. In terms of the clients that use the service, we have over 300 UK clients. Hopefully there'll be some names up there that you recognise, maybe within and outside of your field as well. But most importantly, we have over 7,000 senders on the network. So if you were to go through and analyse your sender list, your top suppliers, a lot of those would overlap with maybe clients within your current sector, but also those outside. So for example, if you're a council, but you have a neighbouring NHS trust, there'll be a huge amount of overlap between suppliers. Where organisations are already on our sender list, we can easily track your business rules against that sender and then pass through an electronic file. We transmit, we process over 1 million invoices a month, and then there's other documents on top of that, as I say, purchase orders, statements and so on, and this service is growing and growing all the time. I'm just going to talk through a couple of specific use cases. So Newcastle upon Tyne NHS Foundation Trust, it's a recent implementation, and it's a good representation now of what a standard implementation would look like. So for example, we had a look at their top suppliers and identified 75 senders, quickly mapped those onto the network, and the speed to value was incredibly rapid. And as I say, this has almost become a de facto standard for how we handle projects now. We were processing over 7,000 invoices a month in under 3 months. So obviously an equivalent of 85,000 documents. That's grown and grown. We're now processing over 100,000 documents through the CloudTrade network. But the thing that's most important to Newcastle is that it requires zero touch by their AP team. We capture the information, we validate it, we push back to the sender where required, but of the documents that go through, there's nothing that requires further touch by the AP team. They can just be sent straight through into authorization or matching as needed. Slightly different sector, slightly different use case here for ARCO, who you may be familiar with. ARCO had a challenge where they had over 1,000 purchase orders a day coming through. Now, the SLAs that they set with their clients is that they offer a next day delivery deadline. Unfortunately, due to the volumes that they were receiving and the intervention that was required from the team there and the intimate knowledge of the accounts that they needed, they were often missing these deadlines. So within ARCO, the purchase orders weren't just a business rule validation. The documents that were coming in often required interpretation by the purchase order processing team. So, for example, they might need to or review a SKU information potentially that was incorrect. They might need to update the volumes and sense check some of the data. So all of this was happening by the team there. The solution that they came up with was to use CloudTrade to capture 100% of the purchase orders. Now, this had not only business rules identified, but it also required lookups into a third-party table. So it might be, for example, to check that the purchase order was not only valid but still open, again, to make sure that the information that was going into the system was 100% accurate. There was an extra level of data insight and analytics that was provided. They were now able to see things at line level. So not only was the matching more accurate, but they were actually able to see exactly which SKUs had the highest level of orders going through. So the benefits that ARCO came up with was over 150,000 saving per annum as a net effect. The side effect of this, though, was equally positive. So the improvement within customer satisfaction was significant, so much so that they actually started to see an increase in orders coming through from existing clients, and they also started pushing the service out to automate their invoices too. So that's a little bit of background about how the service works and who uses it. In terms of something that's hopefully a little bit more relevant to your own use case is how we can automate inbound documents into Integra. So if we were to look at the 80-20 rule, so 20% of your suppliers will account for 80% of your volume, we always find that it's usually a case of actually the 90-10 rule, so 10% of suppliers will equal 90% of the volume. But where there's an application-generated document coming through, we would recommend that that's processed through CloudTrade. The reasons being is that it's a fully managed service. There's no setup on site required, there's no scanners, multifunction devices. We handle all of the supply setup and the mappings for the life of the contract. So if a sender changes a format, if they start to present information in a different way, then we will adjust the templates accordingly. The software that we have is accurate enough to pick that up. We do capture header and line level information, and we do, as I say, support the very complex rules writing and business logic that needs to be built in. The speed to value is rapid as well. As you saw from Newcastle, 3 months was almost the speed to value there, but typically it would be between 3 and 6 months before you're starting to see some fairly significant benefits. Now, Integra Document Manager is a prerequisite for the solution as well. So this handles not only what we call the long tail support, i.e. the low volume suppliers or senders that you have. It's a standard Integra module, but it does importantly give the retrieval of documents that are submitted through. So where an application-generated document has been sent in, it will be rendered and made available through IDM. So it is a core part of the offering. So just as a summary to what we've been looking at, service automation. By providing a service that embeds the business rules that you have and accommodates the complex document processing, we can enrich the data and we provide a platform that's actually going to automate things, not only within Integra potentially, but further down the line with other systems too. So we are the front door to the organization. If it doesn't pass the validation checks, it won't get into your system. We remove more barriers to the success. So where people, as I say, have done historically EDI projects, maybe Portal, looked at other networks, because we remove the barriers, we don't have technical barriers, we don't require the supplier to spend money on the service, we can capture more volume and therefore we see higher success rates. The network that we have created is significant and growing all the time, and it does mean that we are able to offer a higher rate of electronic trading through the removal of the barriers. And finally, data insight. So using a service that maps complex data structure, we can, as I say, offer you greater insight into the inbound information that you might not necessarily be using currently within Integra, but it does give you the potential to analyze that a little bit more detailed. What this results in is a reduced operating cost, increased visibility of process and data, whilst increasing controls and compliance. So going back to Andy's introduction, what we find is that this offers cash release savings that can be used in frontline services. So hopefully that gives you a feel for the service and who uses it, as well as how it fits in with Integra. So I'll just hand back to Andy now to close off the webinar.
Thanks, Jeremy. Thanks for a comprehensive overview and valuable insight into CloudTrade solution. We, of course, will be delighted to come to speak to any of you that have an interest or wish to discuss your specific requirements around the invoicing. So if you'd like to engage with us, then please don't hesitate to give me a call on 07840 648 315 or drop me a line via email. Thank you.